The invoice listed industrial water pumps, a routine export order from a manufacturing company in Ohio to a trading firm in Shenzhen, China. The pumps were standard industrial equipment, the kind used in chemical processing plants and manufacturing operations worldwide. Except these pumps weren't standard at all. They were specialized high-speed centrifuge components, the same technology used to enrich uranium for nuclear weapons. The trading firm in Shenzhen was a front company controlled by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the American manufacturer had been deceived into becoming an unwitting supplier to Iran's nuclear weapons program. The FBI had been tracking this procurement network for 22 months. They had identified 14 Chinese front companies funneling dual-use technology to Iran. They had mapped a web of American exporters and financial institutions manipulated into facilitating illegal transfers. They had documented 847 shipments of controlled technology worth $340 million. And they had 7 days before the most critical shipment yet. Specialized vacuum equipment essential for uranium enrichment was scheduled to leave American soil. If that equipment reached Iran, intelligence assessments indicated the Islamic Republic could achieve weapons-grade uranium enrichment within 18 months. This is how the FBI dismantled an Iranian nuclear procurement network that stretched from Ohio to Tehran and prevented technology transfers that could have enabled a nuclear-armed Iran. The investigation began with a compliance officer's suspicion. In March 2022, an export compliance manager at a precision manufacturing company in Pennsylvania noticed something unusual. A Chinese customer that had been ordering specialty valves for 3 years had changed their shipping instructions. Previous orders had been delivered to an industrial park in Guangzhou. Now, the customer wanted shipments sent to a freight forwarding company in Dubai. Dubai was a known transit point for sanctions evasion. The compliance officer flagged the order. When the company's export control team examined the Chinese customer more closely, they found discrepancies. The customer's website listed facilities that didn't exist. Their corporate registration documents contained inconsistencies. The company declined to fulfill the order and reported their concerns to the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security. The report triggered an immediate FBI investigation. The Chinese company was a front. FBI and Commerce Department investigators traced its corporate structure through layers of shell companies spanning Hong Kong, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates. The ultimate beneficial ownership was hidden behind nominee directors and trust arrangements. But financial intelligence eventually revealed the answer. Payments flowing to the Chinese company originated from accounts controlled by entities designated under U.S. sanctions for supporting Iran's nuclear program. The shell company network was a procurement channel operated by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC had built a sophisticated system to acquire American technology while evading sanctions. They identified U.S. manufacturers producing equipment with potential nuclear applications. They created Chinese front companies that appeared legitimate. They placed orders that seemed routine, requesting technology with civilian uses but adaptable for weapons programs. The American companies had no idea they were supplying Iran's nuclear weapons program. FBI investigation identified 14 Chinese front companies operating as IRGC procurement channels. All were registered within the previous 5 years. All purchased dual-use technology with potential nuclear applications. All routed payments through the same network of obscure financial institutions. All shipped goods to freight forwarders in Dubai and Malaysia. The front companies had successfully acquired technology from 67 American manufacturers across 23 states. The purchased items read like a shopping list for nuclear weapons development. Specialized vacuum pumps used in uranium enrichment centrifuges. High-strength aluminum alloys suitable for centrifuge rotors. Precision bearings that could withstand the extreme speeds of enrichment operations. Electronic controllers for managing centrifuge cascades. Each individual item had legitimate civilian applications. Each individual export appeared legal, but together they formed a comprehensive procurement program for nuclear weapons capability. The network's sophistication reflected years of Iranian adaptation to sanctions enforcement. They never ordered complete systems that would trigger automatic export review. Instead, they purchased individual components that fell below control thresholds. A single vacuum pump wasn't controlled technology, but dozens of vacuum pumps combined with centrifuge rotors, bearings, and controllers formed a complete enrichment system. They established Chinese front companies with legitimate-appearing business operations. Companies maintained websites, answered phone calls, and responded to technical inquiries. They routed shipments through multiple transit countries, using freight forwarders who asked no questions. They paid premium prices without negotiation. The system worked. For years, American technology had flowed to Iran's nuclear program while regulators saw nothing amiss. FBI investigation also identified American participants who had knowingly facilitated the network. 12 American citizens had participated in illegal technology transfers to Iran. 3 were executives at export trading companies recruited by IRGC operatives. They received payments to facilitate shipments, providing false end-user certificates to American manufacturers. 4 were engineers and technical consultants who provided expertise helping Iranian operatives identify suitable American suppliers. They attended meetings in Dubai and Istanbul, where they briefed Iranian officials on American manufacturing capabilities. 3 were freight forwarding employees who managed logistics of illegal shipments, arranging customs documentation and coordinating transit through third countries. 2 were bankers who facilitated payment processing, helping move Iranian money into American financial systems while concealing its origin. Payments ranged from $50,000 to $2.4 million. These 12 individuals had betrayed their country for money. The Iranian operatives managing the network operated from multiple locations. FBI surveillance identified 8 IRGC officers who coordinated procurement activities from China, Malaysia, the UAE, and Turkey, countries where they could operate while maintaining communication with American suppliers and Iranian end users. The officers reported to the IRGC's Self-Sufficiency Jihad Organization, the division responsible for acquiring technology for Iran's military and nuclear programs. Intelligence assessments indicated that technology acquired through this network had significantly advanced Iran's uranium enrichment capabilities. Centrifuge efficiency had improved. Production capacity had expanded. The timeline to weapons-grade enrichment had shortened. American technology was helping Iran build nuclear weapons. The urgency intensified in August 2024. FBI surveillance intercepted communications indicating that a critical shipment was being prepared. The IRGC had successfully procured specialized vacuum equipment from a manufacturer in Ohio. Equipment specifically designed for uranium enrichment operations. Unlike previous shipments of dual-use items, this equipment had no plausible civilian application. Its only purpose was nuclear enrichment. The manufacturer had been deceived by an elaborate cover story. The Chinese front company claimed the equipment was needed for semiconductor manufacturing, but FBI technical experts recognized the truth. The equipment was destined for Iran's Fordo enrichment facility, a hardened underground complex designed to withstand military attack. If the shipment reached its destination, Iran would have the capability to enrich uranium to weapons-grade levels far faster than current intelligence estimates predicted. The shipment was scheduled to leave the port of Long Beach in 7 days. Operation Atomic Shield was authorized immediately. The operation had multiple objectives that had to be achieved simultaneously. The immediate shipment had to be stopped. The Chinese front company network had to be dismantled. All 14 companies sanctioned and their bank accounts frozen simultaneously. The 12 American participants had to be arrested before they could flee or destroy evidence. The IRGC operatives overseas had to be isolated through financial and communications disruption. The operation required coordination across FBI, Commerce Department, Treasury Department, Justice Department, and international partners. Everything had to happen at once. The seizure of the vacuum equipment came first. FBI and customs agents intercepted the shipment at the port of Long Beach before it could be loaded onto a vessel bound for China. The equipment was impounded and transported to a secure facility. Defense Department specialists confirmed FBI suspicions. The equipment was specifically designed for uranium enrichment applications. Its configuration matched known specifications for Iranian centrifuge systems. If installed at Fordo, it would have increased Iran's enrichment capacity by approximately 40%. The manufacturer in Ohio was stunned. Company executives had believed they were fulfilling a legitimate order. They had been professionally deceived by one of the world's most sophisticated procurement networks. The arrests began at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. FBI tactical teams executed warrants simultaneously across 8 states. The 12 American collaborators were taken into custody within a 90-second window. In Houston, an export trading company executive was arrested at his home. His computer contained encrypted communications with IRGC handlers and records of every shipment he had facilitated over 4 years. In Los Angeles, a freight forwarding manager was detained at his office. His files documented the logistics chain that had moved American technology through Dubai and Malaysia to Iran. In New York, a banker was arrested as he arrived at work. His records showed how he had processed millions in Iranian payments while concealing their origin. By 8 a.m., all 12 targets were in federal custody. The financial phase struck simultaneously. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control issued emergency sanctions against all 14 Chinese front companies. Their American bank accounts were frozen. Their relationships with American suppliers were severed. The sanctions extended to 34 additional entities in China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and the UAE that had supported the procurement network. The front companies lost access to approximately $890 million in assets and ongoing contracts. The IRGC's procurement budget for this network was effectively wiped out. International cooperation extended the operation's reach. Freight forwarding companies in Dubai were raided by local police. In Malaysia, bank accounts were frozen. Transit warehouses were inspected. The network's infrastructure across Asia was being systematically dismantled. The prosecution of the American collaborators revealed the full scope of their betrayal. Encrypted communications showed explicit discussions of Iranian end users. Financial records documented payments from sanctioned entities. Shipping documents proved knowledge that goods were being diverted to Iran. 10 defendants pleaded guilty to charges including export control violations, sanctions evasion, conspiracy, and money laundering. two went to trial. Both were convicted on all counts. Sentences ranged from 8 years to 25 years in federal prison. The harshest sentences went to those whose actions had most directly advanced Iran's nuclear capabilities. The equipment seized during Operation Atomic Shield was analyzed extensively. Defense Department technical experts documented how the vacuum systems, centrifuge components, and control electronics would have integrated into Iranian enrichment operations. The findings were classified at the highest levels, but the general conclusion was shared with congressional oversight committees. Had this technology reached Iran, the Islamic Republic could have achieved weapons-grade uranium enrichment within 18 months. The seizure had delayed that capability by years. The operation had potentially prevented a nuclear-armed Iran. The investigation exposed systemic vulnerabilities in American export control systems. The 67 American manufacturers who had unwittingly supplied the network had followed existing compliance procedures. They had checked customer credentials, reviewed export classifications, and filed required documentation. They had still been deceived. Reforms were implemented. Enhanced due diligence requirements for exports to certain categories of customers. Expanded information sharing between government agencies and private sector exporters. New screening tools to identify suspicious patterns. For the American manufacturers who had been deceived, the revelation was devastating. 67 companies learned that their products had been diverted to Iran's nuclear program. Executives who had believed they were conducting normal international commerce discovered their technology was being used to develop weapons of mass destruction. Several companies faced civil penalties for export control violations, even though they had been deceived. The penalties were reduced in recognition of their cooperation and lack of criminal intent. But the financial impact was still significant. More importantly, the reputational damage was severe. Companies that had inadvertently supplied nuclear weapons programs faced customer concerns, shareholder questions, and public scrutiny. Some lost contracts with government agencies that questioned their compliance capabilities. Industry associations launched new initiatives to share threat information. Companies that had once viewed compliance as a bureaucratic burden began treating it as a critical business function. The message was clear. In an era of sophisticated sanctions evasion, good intentions weren't enough. The diplomatic consequences were immediate. The United States presented evidence of the procurement network to allies. The documentation showed that Iran had systematically evaded sanctions with Chinese assistance, that American technology had advanced Iran's nuclear capabilities. European allies implemented enhanced export controls. Asian partners increased cooperation on sanctions enforcement. China's role was more complicated. The front companies had operated from Chinese territory with apparent impunity. American officials privately expressed frustration at Chinese non-cooperation, but public confrontation was limited. The diplomatic tension continued beneath the surface. The 8 IRGC officers who had managed the network faced consequences they hadn't anticipated. Their financial resources were frozen. Their communication channels were compromised. Their carefully built network of American suppliers was destroyed overnight. Intelligence agencies exploited the disruption. With the network's communications identified, signals intelligence collection intensified. Information gathered during Operation Atomic Shield provided insights into broader IRGC procurement operations worldwide. Parallel networks in Europe and Asia were identified. Additional front companies were flagged for future action. The operation's intelligence value exceeded even its immediate operational success. Several of the IRGC officers were subsequently identified operating new procurement networks. Their names were added to sanctions lists. Their photographs were shared with Allied intelligence services. They would spend the rest of their careers looking over their shoulders. The IRGC learned lessons from Operation Atomic Shield. Within months, intelligence indicated that new procurement networks were being established. Different front company structures, different transit routes, different cover stories. The basic strategy remained unchanged. Use intermediaries to acquire American technology while concealing Iranian involvement. But the tactics evolved. The battle would continue indefinitely. Every network dismantled would eventually be replaced. Every procurement channel blocked would be rerouted, but enforcement still mattered. Every shipment stopped was technology that didn't reach Iranian weapons programs. Every network dismantled was years of procurement effort wasted. Every arrest was a message that collaboration with Iranian nuclear programs had consequences. The FBI agents who worked Operation Atomic Shield understood what they had accomplished. They had prevented technology transfers that could have enabled a nuclear-armed Iran. They had dismantled a procurement network that had operated successfully for years. They had potentially prevented a nuclear war. A nuclear-armed Iran would destabilize the Middle East. It would trigger proliferation as regional rivals sought their own nuclear deterrence. It would create risks of nuclear terrorism. The consequences of failure were almost unimaginable, and they had been 7 days away from a technology transfer that could have made those consequences real. Iran's nuclear program continues. The Islamic Republic maintains its uranium enrichment capabilities. It continues to develop advanced centrifuges. It continues to seek technology that could shorten the timeline to weapons-grade material. The procurement networks have been partially rebuilt. The threat has not been eliminated. It has been delayed, complicated, made more difficult and more expensive. That matters. Every month of delay is a month for diplomacy to work. Every obstacle in the procurement chain is an opportunity for detection. The FBI's counter-proliferation mission never ends, because somewhere, right now, an IRGC procurement officer is placing an order with an American manufacturer. The cover story is convincing. The front company appears legitimate, and somewhere, an FBI analyst is reviewing the transaction, looking for patterns, asking questions that might reveal the truth. That's where the next investigation begins. That's how the next nuclear threat will be prevented. This is what the FBI does every day, whether you know it or not.